2023 is right around the corner, and I'm sure that one of your New Year's resolutions is to get your money in order. Right now in America, 63% of people are living paycheck to paycheck. And what's crazy is that of those people making above 6 figures per year, 49% are still living paycheck to paycheck. Clearly, making money and managing money are two different skill sets, and today we're going to be focusing on the latter. So we're going to go through a step-by-step guide on how to stop living paycheck to paycheck. Let's get right into it. Step 1. Know your income and expenses. This is the first step in creating an effective budget. Today I'm going to be using the budget template provided by Google Sheets. This budget template is completely free for anybody with a Google account, and I think it's very user-friendly. But you can also use an app like mint.com or simply write down your budget the old-fashioned way using a pen and paper. The reason we need to figure out what our income and expenses currently are on a monthly basis is so we can know exactly how much money we're currently saving or how much we are in the negative each month. If you're living paycheck to paycheck right now, it's because your expenses are the same, if not more, than your income. And that's of course not very good, but it is what it is, and we're going to work on changing that. So what is the best way to work out what our current income and expenses are? Calculating your income is usually pretty simple. You add up the total amount of money you take home after taxes. Some of these income sources might include your paycheck from your job, bonus income from your job, and other secondary income sources such as working a second job or from side hustles. Like I said, figuring out your income is simple, but calculating your monthly expenses is typically a lot more tricky than you might think. What most people tend to do for this step is simply try to estimate how much they spend for each type of expense. This works well for some type of expenses like rent and car insurance that are fixed expenses and therefore easier to estimate. But most people run into a problem when they try to estimate expenses that tend to vary from month to month. Most people think they're more frugal than they actually are, so they assume that they spend less than they actually do. For example, you might try to convince yourself that you only spend $100 a month eating out at restaurants, even though you know deep down that nearly every day after work you pick up a spicy chicken sandwich meal from Chick-fil-A. The best way to find out what your expenses are is by going through the last 3 months of your bank statements. This is how you find out what you've truly been spending. And trust me, you might be feeling pretty exposed after doing this. It's best to go through the last 3 months of your statements and write down a list of all the different categories of expenses you've had over this time, and how much you spent in total each month in each of these categories. Then you can work out how much you spend each month in each expense category by taking an average of the 3 months. I want to show you an example of what this might look like. The first and usually biggest expense that we all have is housing. Let's assume that this is $1,800 a month. We'll also assume about $200 for utilities. Another expense we'll have is food. For groceries, maybe that comes out to $600 a month. And for restaurants, let's say we like to eat out a lot, so we spend $200 a month. Another expense we're going to have is our mobile phone plan, and we're going to assume $50 a month for that. If you have a car, you're going to have to pay for things like car insurance, which could be $150 a month. You'll also have to buy gas, and if you commute to your job in the city, you might be paying $200 a month for this. Next is our entertainment budget. This is for things like going out with your friends, and we're going to assume $150 here. Most people also pay monthly for subscription services like Netflix, Amazon Prime, and Spotify, and these add up, so I'm going to assume $50 for these. And chances are, if you're living paycheck to paycheck, you have some form of a debt payment, whether that's an auto loan, student debt, or payment plans for things like electronics. I'm going to assume $400 here. Of course, there are many more expenses that you can have, so you'll have to go through your own personal statements and identify all of them. One budget item I always include, and this is one that most people don't usually factor in, is miscellaneous items. I promise you that there is always going to be some random expenses that come up that you can't fit into one of the above categories. For example, every once in a while you might take a flight to go see your family, or since it's the holiday season, you'll likely be spending money buying gifts for your family and friends. So I like to budget for these not so regular expenses as well. Otherwise, you'll find that you'll tend to go over your budget from time to time. In this example, I'll assume $200 a month for miscellaneous expenses. So let's review this example budget. You can see that we plan to make $4,000 this month, but unfortunately, based on our current spending habits, we're also spending $4,000 a month. We're not saving anything, not able to make progress financially, and officially living paycheck to paycheck. So now let's talk about step 2, reducing your expenses. Now that you have a budget, I want you to go through your budget and start scrutinizing each and every expense category individually, with the goal of lowering your overall monthly cost of living. I guarantee you can find a way to reduce the majority of your expenses without taking away too much from things that you enjoy. And I bet there are even going to be some expenses like unused subscriptions that you can get rid of altogether. I first started scrutinizing my own budget to reduce my overall monthly expenses when I was in my senior year of college. At that time, I was only working part-time and had a little food photography side hustle going on, so I wasn't really making a lot of money. I knew that the easiest way to increase my bottom line savings would be to go through every line of my budget and see if I I could reduce any expenses. I started with my housing payment, which was of course my largest expense. I was paying $1,200 a month to rent in the upper half of a duplex. $1,200 is still pretty cheap in most places, but that still made up around 50% of my total expenses. So I knew I could save a lot more if I were able to just reduce this expense. So when I found out that my neighbors below me were moving out, I asked my landlord if I could move into the lower half of the duplex, which was renting for only $925 a month. So I was able to save another $275 a month by making the move downstairs into the basement, which to be honest wasn't the funnest switch going from a spacious top floor to a cramped basement, but the savings were worth it. I also started tackling some of my other larger expenses, and soon I was able to save an extra $500 a month without being any less happy. So let's get back to our example budget and show what this process might look like for you. Let's scrutinize all of these expenses and see if we can lower them, starting with housing. Even though I was able to reduce this expense back when I was in college, maybe you're not able to do so, and that's okay. Everyone's situation is unique, so you have to remember to always budget according to your own needs. Sometimes moving isn't worth saving an extra $100 a month, and that's okay. We can still find other expenses that we can reduce. The $600 grocery bill, this could be an expense that you know for certain you can reduce. You might make a plan to start going to the grocery store with a list already in hand. That way you don't buy all those extra items that you don't really need, and that allows you to lower your grocery bill every week by $50. Now you can reduce your grocery budget from $600 to $400. Let's say you cut down from eating out at restaurants from twice a week to once a week, and now you can reduce your restaurant budget from $200 to $100 a month. Your cell phone, right now you're paying for a $50 a month plan, but you know that you can switch to another provider that offers plans as low as $15 a month, which brings us to our partner for this video, Mint Mobile. You might already know Mint Mobile if you've seen those funny ads from Ryan Reynolds, who's also their owner, but let me quickly tell you how awesome their service is. Mint Mobile offers premium wireless for as low as $15 a month, and you don't have to sacrifice any coverage, speed, or data. They're built on the nation's largest 5G network. They keep costs low because they sell direct to you online. They cut out the retail stores and salespeople. Switching to Mint is super easy. Thanks to their digital eSIM cards, you can sign up and activate immediately right on your phone from the comfort of your home. No more standing around waiting in line at a big wireless store. You can keep your current device and phone number and easily switch services. And if your phone isn't eSIM compatible, Mint will ship you a new SIM card free of charge. All Mint Mobile plans include unlimited nationwide talk and text, plus lightning fast 5G and free mobile hotspot. Mint will show you how much data you use each month and recommend plans that save you money. Mint also offers a modern family plan that lets you set up a super affordable family plan with as little as 2 lines. As an added savings bonus, through January 15th, if you purchase a 3-month plan, you will receive an additional 3 months free using my link mintmobile.com/Carson, also linked in my description, or you can scan the QR code. This offer is available on all plans including unlimited, so stop paying more than what you need to on your wireless bill and start saving big with Mint Mobile. Okay, moving on to our other expenses. Maybe gas is another expense that you can't reduce, but you can change your car insurance provider and save another $15 a month. You figure you can reduce your entertainment budget to $100 a month. You can cancel some subscriptions you barely use and save another $25 a month. And you can find a way to reduce your miscellaneous expenses by $75. Now, if we take another look at how we're doing, sure enough, we're able to save $500 a month while still doing things we enjoy, like eating out and going out with friends. All we had to do was reduce those expenses that don't have a huge impact on our life. And of course, everyone's finances vary considerably. Maybe you think some of my assumptions in this example are completely absurd. Like, if you're a family of 7, you probably will need to spend more than $400 a month on groceries. But the point is that in most cases, you can probably find a way to reduce your expenses so that you can start saving more money each month. If you find that after reducing your expenses, you're still not able to save a good amount of money every month, then you don't just have a money spending problem, you also have a money making problem. In that case, you're going to need to work on step 3, which is increasing your income. Just making a little bit of extra income can make a huge impact on how much money you can save. In the budgeting example I just went over, I have us saving $500 a month, and that's after reducing most expenses. But imagine we were able to find a way to make just another $500 a month after taxes. Then we would be able to double our savings to $1,000 a month. So I want to share with you what I think are 2 of the most effective ways to increase your income, and these methods can be accomplished within a reasonable time frame. The first is job hopping. If you Google how to make more money, on every list, it will tell you that you should ask your employer for a raise. But I don't think this is practical for 90% of people. More often than not, you know you're not in the position to be asking for a raise, because maybe they just gave gave you a 3% raise a few months ago. I think getting a new job is way more effective and realistically likely to happen than getting a raise. And this isn't just my opinion and experience. The data also shows this. According to a survey this year from ZipRecruiter, 64% of recent hires who were previously employed say they got a pay raise through switching jobs. Among those, 48% say they got a raise of 11% or more, and 22% were paid a signing bonus. Of course, use your own judgment with this one. If you have great job security in your current position, you may want to hold on to that, since it's looking like the economy may fall into recession over the next year. And if that's the case, it's worth prioritizing job security over an increase in pay. The second way to increase your income is starting a side hustle. An example of a side hustle I'm doing right now is this YouTube channel of mine that you're watching right now, which is currently making me around $2,000 to $3,000 a month. I think the key with side hustles is that you have to try a lot of different things. Most of them won't work, but eventually you'll find one that does, and then you can run with it. Some side hustles I've done in the past have been food photography, where companies would pay me to take nice looking photos of their food, and also another YouTube channel where I talk about houseplants. And whilst I wouldn't call these side hustles of mine failures because I learned some good skills in the process and made decent money doing them, I did, however, figure out that they weren't really scalable. The food photography business was capped at how much time I had to do each individual shoot. It was really like getting a second job. And the YouTube channel I had talking about houseplants also wasn't very scalable because the houseplant niche on YouTube is pretty niche, so there wasn't a wide audience I could reach. And houseplant YouTube channels also have a low CPM, so I wasn't getting paid much for the views I was getting. Side note though, I am making a little comeback soon on my plant channel, so even though YouTube tells me that statistically you're probably a man in your 30s, meaning that there's maybe a 0.1% chance of you actually being interested in houseplants, if you just so happen to like that sort of thing, then make sure to go check out my plant channel, The Petite Plant. Anyways, eventually I started this channel, and I'm really enjoying making these videos for you guys, so if you want to support this side hustle of mine, then feel free to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more of this type of content. Overall, I really recommend making the investment and spending the time working on some side hustles, and I think the minimum you should expect to shoot for is $500 in additional income per month. And if we make this change to our example budget, now we're able to save $1,000 per month. If you've completed these steps, you're now able to save a nice portion of your income each month, and this is where the magic starts to happen. Now I'm going to talk about what to do with the money you save. Step 4, putting your savings to work. The first part of this step is making sure you pay off any debt that you have. Debt is one of the main reasons why most people are living paycheck to paycheck, and your savings are best used to pay off the debts first before we can start doing more exciting things with your money. High interest debt such as credit card debt and personal loans are the worst kinds of debt because they have very high interest rates ranging from 9 to 20% or more annually. Because the interest rates on these types of debt are so high, it's impossible to start building wealth if you have to devote a good chunk of your hard-earned savings to making interest payments. There's also no point of investing your money into the stock market where you might average an 8 to 10% annual return if you also have credit card debt that you're paying 20% interest on. Even if you're a genius investor and you average a 20% return on your money in the stock market, you're still better off paying off your high interest debt because paying off debt is essentially a risk-free investment. Just take a look at our budget example. If we were to pay off our debt, the debt expense goes from $400 to $0, and now suddenly we can save $1,400 a month. You can start to see how all of these steps are really compounding in nature. When you pay off all of your high interest debt, then the next thing to save up for is an emergency fund. This is a fund that covers 3 to 6 months of essential expenses, and what this does is help you weather any difficult financial times you might face in the future, like if you were to lose your job or experience health problems. I know what you're thinking. 3 to 6 months of expenses sounds like quite a lot of money to keep on the side. In our example, our expenses are $3,500 a month, so that would mean keeping roughly $10,000 to $20,000 sitting in the bank. But trust me, this step is incredibly important and it gives you peace of mind. And after taking care of your debts and saving for an emergency fund, now you're ready to begin investing most of your savings so that you can start to multiply your money. This is the step that's going to put you in a better financial situation than 90% of people that you know. A great way to start investing is by investing into what's called a Roth IRA. This is a retirement account in which you can contribute up to $6,500 annually. You can open up a Roth IRA at a bank or brokerage and select what you want to invest in, such as mutual funds, stocks, bonds, and ETFs. I would suggest that you pick a broad stock market index fund ETF to put your savings into, since this will provide you with great diversification over hundreds of the highest quality stocks. A Roth IRA is a great long-term investment because your contributions grow tax-free, and you can also withdraw money from your account tax-free when you're over the age of 59 and a half. It's critical that we invest our savings instead of just keeping our savings in the bank. If you were to take the $1,400 a month in savings from the budget example and invest that money into the stock market, let's assume you receive the average annual stock market return of 10%. In 30 years, you would have over $2.7 million. Whereas, if you were to just keep the $1,400 a month in savings in a Wells Fargo savings account at a phenomenal interest rate of 0.15% annually, then after 30 years, you would only have $515,000. So by investing, you would retire with over 5 times the amount of money compared to if you had only saved your money in the bank. So I'm telling you, it's really important you take action on this step. And if you're curious about things I'm investing in right now, well, I'm investing into an index fund ETF called VTI. This ETF is really well diversified and holds over 4,000 individual stocks. So if you're confused about what exactly to invest in, I think VTI is a pretty good choice. And those are my steps to escaping the paycheck to paycheck lifestyle. I hope you all found this video helpful. I appreciate each and every one of you. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.